All right, so welcome to week 5. This week we're going to be talking about professionalism and ethics. I'll have 3 attachments that are going to be on the on Blackboard for you in your assignment or lessons tab this week. Basically, there's going to be a keynote presentation. Some people call it, it's may call it PowerPoint, but it's a different platform. It's called Keynote. I'll have a keynote presentation for you to open up and look at, and we're going to go through some of the stuff that I really want you to focus on here in just a minute. I'll have the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics that will be on there as well, and then obviously, and there's going to be an article from Police One about ethics training that I'd like for you to look at. This week on the discussion board, one of the things that I would like for you to do when we do our discussion, I want you to take all this stuff in together, and during your discussion this week, I want you to compose your thoughts on professionalism and ethics, and come up with, let's say 150 words. I'd like for you to comment 150 words on professionalism and ethics, what your take on it is, what you feel about what a professional is, how police officers can be more professional, and talk about those particular topics in your discussion this week. So what I'd like for you to do very quickly, if you would, go ahead and open up your the keynote presentation for professionalism and ethics. This is a particular presentation that I use when I teach in the police academy. And just very briefly, I want to go over some of the high points and some things that I want you to take away or remember from this particular presentation. Professionalism and ethics is an entire block that we teach at the Police Academy. If you are in the criminal justice program and decide later that you want to go to the Police Academy to complete your degree, if you're in the AAS program, then you would actually, to complete your degree and to become licensed, you would actually go through the academy, and there is a professionalism and ethics section in the police academy. There's also a code of conduct that we have when you go to the police academy. There are certain things that you're responsible for, and based on your conduct while you're in the academy, to kind of give you an idea and to set you on the right path, so to speak, with what will be expected of you when you become a law enforcement professional. Excuse me. So if you would, go ahead and open up your keynote presentation if you haven't done it already, and I'll kind of go slide by slide and tell you basically what it is that I'm going to be looking for. All right. The second slide says, what is professionalism? And if you'll go through those bullet points, basically an occupation where one professes to be skilled in and to follow, which would be the case in law enforcement. It takes certain skills, and it's a professional job or occupation where there are certain expectations that the organization has as well as society. It's a learned skill. Professionalism is a learned skill. Some people call it a calling, something that they're supposed to do. And it also talks about being a vocation or occupation requiring advanced training. That's some of the things. One of the things you're going to find out when you get into police work is there's continued training. The next slide is a quote by Oliver Wendell Holmes that said, "Every calling is great when greatly pursued." So in your discussion, I'd like for you to look at and possibly even, make some comments on that as well. On the next slide, slide 4, if you look, I want you to look at the characteristics of a profession. Go over those different bullet points, and I'll probably ask you about some of those on your exam that's coming up here next week. The benefits of professional policing. These are some of the things that benefit society when we have a professional police organization. What I'd like for you to do is look at some of those bullet points and just kind of chew on those for a minute if you would. Basically means just roll that around in your head and think about how it may apply to you as a professional police officer. Then we talk about some of the disadvantages of professional policing. If you want to have a professional department, Some people would say, well, it's going to cost a lot of money. I'm going to have to pay higher salaries, things like that. So administrations, or city administrations anyway, may look at that as a disadvantage. Realistically, though, there's really no disadvantage to being a professional police department. Okay, and then when we go to slide 9, I kind of want you to look at what police officers look like today versus what they looked like in the past. And if you go to slide 10, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. If you go down to slide 11, Sir Robert Peel, when he started the Metropolitan, he was the father of modern policing. So back in 1829, we had the Metropolitan Police Act, and basically this is the basis for American policing as we know it today. All right. And then we talk about and move into some of the things. There's some bullet points here on slide 12. When we move into policing in the colonial era, and then move into more modern types of policing. And you can see that also on slide 13. We go to slide 14, and now we're looking at kind of some of the transitions from policing. We went from walking the beats, we got into cars, and then on that particular slide, you can see the officer who's just standing out in traffic kind of screaming at people. So there has been an evolution. In some ways it's been good, and in some not so good. Community policing is on slide 16. You can look at some of the bullet points about what was going on when we started, moved away from community policing, and now we're kind of moving back into it. They call it COPS, or community-oriented policing. And so there are actual grants out there that kind of give us an idea of how policing has evolved over the years. When you get over to slide 16, read these things about discretion. Police officers work in a dynamic and complex world with about 10,000 shades of gray, so to speak. They choose how, when, and where to apply the law. Patrol officers exercise quite a bit of discretion. All right, based on your job as in a patrol position, your actions and whatever you do with regard to making an arrest or how you encounter people could have a lot of ramifications for yourself as a professional, and for that person that you may be putting under arrest. And so we go more into discretion and things like that. Now, one of the things that I have on this particular presentation is I have a law enforcement code of ethics. That will also be in this particular keynote presentation, but I'm going to have a PDF that's going to be attached for you to look at. And I want you to really kind of, look into what the code of ethics is, why there was a code of ethics that was established, and how it applies in modern policing today. If we move down to slide, I believe that's 25, it talks about ethical behavior. There's some bullet points in there. I think you can kind of fill in the blank, so to speak. Ethical behavior being objective, being unbiased. You have ethical behavior regardless of your personal feelings, and talking about integrity and those sorts of things. And it goes on from there. Okay. Then if you look down at slide 27, it talks about some of the things that can happen or the results of unethical behavior. And I want you to kind of go over that too. And then look at ethical dilemmas. Basically, these ethical dilemmas are bullet points that, things that you look at that where you may be faced with, I'm going to have to make a decision. Is what I'm doing ethical, and is it worth compromising my ethics to make this arrest? So, look at some of those, and you can add those in with your discussion as well. The last thing that I want you to look at, and of course you can look at the whole presentation, feel free, but these are just some of the things I really want you to hit on. Slide 29 talks about courage. And I want you to look at that and kind of determine, when we think of courage, we think about running into, a situation where there's a man with a gun, or maybe a firefighter running into a burning building. But a lot of times it has quite a bit more to do with that. It has more to do with our ethical behavior facing certain situations. And I'd like for you to look at that. And that's really, on this particular keynote, I just kind of wanted you to just kind of go through that, not spend a whole lot of time. Really what I would like for you to do is, I would like for you to read the Code of Ethics, look at the presentation, read the article, the Police One article that I have, and then just basically discuss your findings and think about your thoughts. Now, some of the things on that particular keynote presentation that I will be asking you about on the test, you'll need to know about who Sir Robert Peel is. You'll need to know some of the things that make an ethical police organization, or what makes a police officer ethical, just some of those basic things. So if you read the presentation and look at it, and you read the article and the Code of Ethics, I think you'll be fine on this particular module of learning that we're having. So we do have an exam that's going to be coming up. It's going to be over everything that we've gone through so far. We're not going to you don't have to use the testing facility. I'll be posting it on Blackboard, so you can take it. Obviously it's going to be open book, but anyway, you can look at some of the things, kind of get your first exam out of the way. And I know you might be a little bit nervous perhaps, and maybe not. But anyway, we'll get that first exam out of the way, and then we'll start going to the testing center and things like that. All right, I hope everybody's having a great week. I've been looking at your discussions. Discussions are pretty good. I might like a little more thought going into it, and that's why on this particular occasion, I went ahead and put the 150 word requirement for this particular one. Some of you are doing a great job commenting on other people's discussions and the points that they're making. Hey, I think that's great. It's just going to enhance your learning and make you more comfortable with what's going on. So anyway, I think you're all doing a pretty decent job, and I really appreciate it. Okay. All right. So look, that's going to be it for this week. Professionalism and ethics. Start thinking about what makes a professional, and I hope that you guys have a great week.